First of all, thank you so much for your time today. I think it's been a while since we connected and spoke directly, but I know we've been on conversation on chat. But a quick intro to whoever watches this video. I know your journey has primarily been in financial services. I think you spent about 8.5 years with Kotak Securities. You've done wealth and investment platform building at Kotak Securities. Then I think you had a brief stint at an edtech startup, and then you know, it was an honor for you to, for me at least, to have you on board at Capital Float. You were my first hire at the Bombay office in product,
Correct. Yeah.
and from what I remember, at least among all the PMs, you are the most creative, and without a doubt, your presentations, the way you presented user stories, journeys, presented use cases was just fabulous. Like, I don't think even till date, I've not come across anybody as creative as you from a product management style. I think that's probably one of your best skills and strongest modes in your personality, right? And I know after that you ventured out into a journey of Insurtech. So there's been a wealth of experience that you've had, and I'd love to pick your brains on a lot of aspects.
Sure. Glad to be part of this conversation.
Great. So when we maybe first, I want to hear from you in terms of your journey into product management. I know you have a breadth of experience of product management across different industries now, but
Hmm.
your passion for this space, your interest for this space, your learnings through the years, how has it evolved?
Sure. So I actually honestly got into product management by accident.
Mhm.
What happened is I was an equity advisor. I used to tell the world which stocks to buy.
Mhm.
Thank God they didn't actually follow my advice. Otherwise, it didn't last, and no wonder it didn't last long. Not just
Yeah.
for me, but for a lot of those customers that depended on my advice.
Mhm.
And has bad timing happened, 2008, the markets crashed, Lehman Brothers crisis, etc., and all of that.
Yeah.
And somehow that's where I got pulled into product management. I actually started doing structured products. Basically, you
Mhm.
give equity linked debentures where you guarantee principal, but you link your returns towards the market.
Yeah.
And that's where I started getting to product management initially, where I sort of started understanding what customers basically want.
Mm.
What are that? Started getting insights from them. What are they looking for? Are they looking for safety of principal? Are they looking for short-term, long-term returns, etc., and all of that?
Yeah.
Also, more importantly, I as a PM, it is not how we define PM today, but I got exposed to various aspects of business. So right from
Sure.
understanding pain points to areas of friction, working closely with sales, business teams, operations, compliance, risk, marketing, HR. So it gave me an exposure to different functions. And
Mhm.
every day there was a new fight. Someday you're fighting with compliance, someday you're fighting with legal, someday you're fighting with operations.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think what excited me is that when I started even working in Kodak Securities, building platforms or building different services, features, etc., the
Mm.
thrill and the excitement of a journey of building that entire product, right from a concept that you have, like HNF P2P lending, this concept is there on paper to, sketching it out, to getting various approvals, to see that entire journey. And eventually, when the customer buys your product, that
Yeah.
thrill, that joy, nothing can sort of, literally is nothing can match that. I mean, I remember the first product that I actually launched, I worked hard at it. I actually had tears in my eyes when the customer picked it up. I mean, he didn't buy it, but okay,
Mm.
you sort of felt validation of the entire effort, right from an idea to it being used by a certain customer. So that entire journey of going to different business processes,
Yeah.
etc., and all of that is something that I just loved, and that's how I've always stuck to product management. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Uh, I know you had a breadth of experience. So, which space do you like most? Well,
Lending,
investment.
clearly lending. I
Really?
mean, clearly lending. I mean, any day I would love to go back to lending because see,
Mhm.
investments has become very commoditized. Broking has become very commoditized. Now, the boy has stock market, what there's nothing new that you can do. You can only play on brokerage rate. Even if you look at Zerodha, yes, great product, but ultimately the game was good brokerage, or rather they
Yeah.
played on the brokerage thing.
Yeah.
So, and insurance, I hate to say this, insurance is a push product, right? You don't wake up in the morning, tell us insurance policy later.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thinks that, but everyone thinks like, boss, aaj na, let's go to Europe. I want to book a holiday, so I need cash for that. I want to buy an
Yeah.
iPhone. I need cash for that. I want to buy a car. I need cash for that. I want to buy this. I want to order from Swiggy. I need a BNPL product for that. So lending is so pervasive. Lending is like everywhere, and there's so
Yeah.
much of innovation you can do. Lending. Everybody wants a damn loan. Nobody wants insurance. Mutual
But don't
fund
you
and
think,
all. Yeah,
but don't you think there's an opportunity there to disrupt or change user behavior and position insurtech products in a better way to ensure that more people are insured on different aspects?
completely. There's a big opportunity in terms of process, etc., that you can do. But the biggest challenge is it's sort of like a chicken and egg situation. The fact that we see a lot of firms in lending doing interesting stuff, innovative stuff, is because there's a market there. Okay,
Hmm.
you can try, somebody will accept a product, there'll be early adopters to try it, and it sort of grows.
Yeah.
So hence, because insurance is not that pervasive, only 3% of India is actually insured, which is a very low
Mhm.
rate compared to abroad. US is in double digits, etc.
Sure.
So because that market size is not so big and there's no dying demand for it, so hence that innovation is also not sort of caught up pace.
Mm.
Yes, if let's say I've seen innovation happening, let's say in auto insurance, Accos of
Mm.
the world, etc., are doing
Sure.
good stuff. Digits of the world are going good, do good stuff. So if regulation plays a role, saying that boss, it is mandatory for you to let's say get insurance, a certain amount of insurance, which means the
Mhm.
market size becomes bigger, which means
Yeah.
more investments will go in, more people will invest in the tech, etc., and all of that, and then that will actually sort of scale what do you call the technology, etc., and all of that. Today it's a chicken and egg situation. The market
Sure.
is not. You need to make the market big enough for people to pump in enough money and take that kind of risk. So
Sure.
yeah,
Let's break the problem statement down a little bit. Now,
sure,
let's understand InsurTech. I understand there's a distribution problem which
correct,
needs to be solved for deeper penetration.
perfect.
Uh, remember how lending used to happen in paper-based lending, and a lot
Mm,
of aspects
mm,
went digital post that.
mm.
I'm very curious to understand how is underwriting and risk management done in InsurTech today? Is it
Sure.
still manual or is it sort of digitized today?
No,
Uh,
it's digitized. So let's put it this way. So in InsurTech, basically at a process level, it's very similar to lending.
sure.
At process level is completely similar to lending. You capture KYC to know who the customer is. You do your
Mm.
PAN checks, Aadhaar checks, etc. Then you capture your income proof because you want to know, okay, if this guy can afford the premium that he needs to pay, and
Mm.
whether, for example, if I have to cover him for 20, let's say 2 crores, does he have that kind of income that justifies that kind of coverage? So
Sure.
capture income proof. We do our CIBIL checks, we do our CRIF checks, we do our
Mm.
AML checks, we do our PEP checks, etc. And all of that. We do e-natures, we do natures, we capture the
Mm.
bank account details. So the entire thing is similar to lending,
Yeah.
except that okay, there's an added element of the customer's health. So
Mm.
he needs to go undergo a medical test. We need to
Mm.
check his blood pressure, had he had surgeries in the past, etc., and all that,
Sure.
because that influences the risk. So
Sure.
process level very similar to lending completely,
Mm.
but as like I said, business level it's very different. Lending
Mm.
is a pull product. It's something that
Mm.
everyone wants,
Mm.
whereas here, like I said, nobody wants insurance. It's a push product.
Yeah.
And the bigger challenge also, I
Mm.
just realized, like, see, BNPL and a lot of these solutions are working for a market, or they've tried to sort of crack the market, which is NTC.
Sure.
Which, for example, if I can't get a credit card, can I get a lazy pay account so that I can,
Mm.
purchase, pay my bills when I'm going out with friends, buy on
Yeah.
Swiggy, etc., and all of that. So that has also helped target a very large young audience.
Sure.
So a lot of younger audience that might not have a civil score, at least they can take an easy credit, EMI, etc., and all of that. And
Sure.
therefore, since those guys are willing to spend a little more, not thinking for the future, they want to sort of splurge, you can say that way. So that market, and given the fact that India is slightly proportionally higher towards the younger audience,
Mm.
so
Mm.
hence that market is obviously there, bigger at least in pure numbers, even if it's not in terms of sheer market value, pure numbers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, do you think there's a play for alternative data, like in lending, how it happened to use alternative data sources to find newer markets, newer ways to penetrate, push, rather than pull people towards it? Is there scope for that on the InsurTech side?
Clearly, there's a lot of scope. So, for example, today what happens is the biggest friction points. The income proof is slightly solved. I mean, customers might still give us bank statement by downloading on his app, etc., and all that.
Mm.
But the inertia, other than on just somebody does not want insurance, there's also inertia on the process. For example, if I tell Uttam you need to do your medicals on Sunday, you say, boss,
Yeah.
let me think about it, etc.
Yeah.
He'll think, I'll do it next week now. Yaar, itna kuch. There's no urgency. Okay?
Mm. Mm.
So, and that urgency is because I'm getting the customers. We do have stuff like home medicals where somebody comes in, but then also have to start appointment karna padega. He said, no, do it tomorrow, do it afterwards. Some people might say, look, in the previous night, I might have had something more, so I don't want to do the medical test. So, medical becomes a friction point. So, clearly, how do I solve for that friction point from a process level using technology? So, for example, we're working with certain firms where we are using the photograph or PPG. PPG is a technology.
Mm.
wherein I can just take a photograph of yours and I can immediately know your oxygen levels, I know your blood pressure, I know your
Oh,
stress.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is we are actually piloted. We're doing some testing on that. So just
Mhm.
on a camera phone, because as soon as salesperson does, the salesperson has to just hold the camera for 90 seconds and
Mm.
look at the stress levels, etc., and all of that. There are also technologies or open APIs where basis your photograph, I can know what's your BMI accurately, or so there's a lot of interesting stuff there. There's some Israeli firms that are basically doing photo-based urine tests. So
Mm.
what they're doing is instead of that urine sample needs to travel to a laboratory, etc., and all of that, you can do a home urine test where it gives you and this is the camera's picture and how it interprets that eventual result of that strip.
Mm.
You can do a home urine test. You don't have to have those fancy machines, etc., and all that. So there are a
This
lot of yeah.
could probably, I mean, whenever all these things, while it sounds damn interesting, and then
Mhm.
there could be a lot of foul play also possibly with
Agreed,
this.
agreed, 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 agreed. To be honest, okay, insurance also has been notorious for a lot of mis-selling. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's possible that your medical records at a medical clinic can also be sort of biased or not presented accurately. Sometimes the connivance with agents and medical institutions
Mm.
or medical firms. So that challenge is there. But having said that, at least if my risk is little lower and if I
Mm.
can take those calls based on certain technology that boss, हाँ इसमें problem नहीं है. Yeah,
Yeah.
if it is clearly evident problem here, then instead of rejecting him later, I can do those early checks. Sort of think of this like a immediate civil check. Civil does not guarantee you the loan, but at least if I can use that as a gating criteria, कि boss इसका blood
Sure.
pressure उसको ज़्यादा है, I can use it for that. Yeah.
Got it. Um, Very curious to understand how is typically the team set up in like insurance, because I understand there's like an actuarial team, there's a risk team, there's an underwriting team. I'm trying to picture this setup within an insurtech firm.
Okay.
What
So
does actuarials do? What does
sure.
risk do? And what does underwriting do? Like,
So I'll give a reference in, for example, in lending. So let's say there's a team that creates a lending policy that these are the structures, these are the ways in which this policy is going to be structured. That is what an actual team does. The
mm,
actual team also does complex calculations.
mm,
They basically say, okay, what is the risk that I can have if the customer has X amount
mm,
of income, etc., and all of that. They also look at it from an investment perspective because this money that you give also goes into certain investment, which I give to you back in form of returns as well. That's
sure.
your non-term products, where I put it in ULIP products, and therefore I generate a guaranteed amount of return, a guaranteed amount of IRR. So that's
Yeah.
what the actuarial team does. They look at from a risk policy perspective. The other side is basically your classic underwriting perspective. These are your credit managers.
Yeah.
The sales guy gives the case to him. Credit manager looks at the case. An underwriter here looks at a case where he looks at income. He looks
Mm,
at income from an eligibility perspective, and he looks at medical records. So we have a lot of doctors, right? They look at medical records. They
mm,
see,
mm.
based on the medical report, what deviations you have, and therefore give a decision.
Sure.
So similar to that, there's actual that defines the policy. There's an underwriting that actually executes what it's just like a typical credit manager who issues the policy. If he wants an additional document, the credit manager will ask for it. So
Sure.
actual job is largely one time. It's not to do with day-to-day activities. So credit
Yeah.
manager works daily. So
Sure.
that's what the
Understood.
underwriting your thing does.
So, in your view, what all like remember in lending we looked at multiple sources of alternate data. We tried to structure new products, right? Typically, the market was like the insurance space. It was like a PL or like a business loan, or it was like a credit line, a line product. But that's when you started to see innovation happening in terms of the lending products too, right? Today, on insurance side, if I take this bucket, it's standard medical, term, life, vehicle insurance that is sold, right? Are
Correct.
there opportunities for like newer insurtech products? Are there opportunities with alternative data that can enable this new products, maybe even sachet insurance packages, etc.? Because today, when you start to sell things at like 18,000, 15,000 premiums of say 5,000 monthly, it becomes a bit too much toward the income group within India, right?
Correct. Correct.
And I'm just using the FMCG play here, right? Is there a play for like sachet loans, or like the concept of sachet loans? Uh, Maybe it's sachet insurance products also offered
Correct.
here.
So we call it pocket insurance,
Yeah.
basically something that you can just buy off the shelf. So
Mm.
there is clearly stuff that's happened there. For example, when you go to Clear Trip and you're basically, let's say, booking a flight trip,
Sure.
let's say they'll say, okay, why don't you insure this trip for, let's say, lost luggage?
Yeah.
Ola, for that matter, when you book outstation trips, says, why don't you, pay a certain amount of premium? We'll ensure that if some theft, etc., blah, blah, happens,
Sure.
we'll reimburse it. So there is an opportunity there, and a lot of people have been doing it. Make My Trips, etc., have been doing it. When you go on Tractor, you will get a pocket-sized Tata AI life insurance. Having
Got
said
it.
that, again, it boils down to the fact that while you do this innovation, while you sort of break down the entry barriers for it, make it much more
Mm.
affordable, reachable, I get that point. But I think fundamentally that point is whether there's actually a need for it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing unfortunate people are not seeing that motivation. Like honestly, when was the last time you bought flight insurance or cab insurance? I
Mm.
do not know. Yes, when you're traveling to Europe, when your trips are longer, maybe you would, and you have a lot of baggage, you would.
Sure.
So that initial motivation is the challenge, and people have tried it. I've not seen it succeed a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
I
I'm
think the
Yeah,
positioning or mindset or probably user behavior is like, okay, if I, what's the return on this?
exactly, exactly,
I think
exactly,
people always from an that come with that mindset versus what's the downside I can protect also,
exactly. And
right?
see, there's a cost, right? I have to pay for this cost and generally no return. No, I'll
Yeah.
give you a classic example. So earlier when I was younger, I had this Kotak Life insurance and I was 25, 26. The next year I was thinking, boss, it was I think costing me 25,000, 20,000, something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
boss, मेरे को क्यों renew करना है? मैं यार market में डालूंगा या मैं
Hmm.
holiday पे चला जाऊंगा.
Hmm.
अभी ये cost है, you don't you the benefit of it was in case I die, somebody from my family will get it. It's
Got it.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I think you're bang on. People don't see the benefit of it or the
Hmm.
downside of it, and they're not able to sort of yeah.
I probably only see value in a term insurance, not on a on anything else. Maybe medical insurance too,
Okay,
as you
so as a biased person in the market, yes, you're right. At least term insurance everyone should get, and there's clear.
yes. Yeah. I think term and medical, those are two
I
critical
agree.
ones.
I agree. I
Other
agree.
than that, I don't think, at least my personal take, no insurance on anybody.
Not even auto insurance. Wouldn't you want to go for that?
Oh yeah, of course. That comes by default. You have to buy that anyways. You this yeah.
No, but as I'm just interested as a customer. Was if there was no regulation, would you still buy it?
For the Indian market, yes, because of the number of accidents
Okay.
that happen and number of you know, it's not easy. Like you, if there's a car without a dent in this market, I would be very surprised.
Okay. Fair. And health obviously is the other one because
Yeah,
we see health as an important thing. So yeah, maybe
correct,
yeah, term and health and auto max. Correct.
correct. Uh,
Yeah.
what's have you started managing teams now? Or have you, started to be still functioning as an independent product manager?
No, so currently I lead a team of 10 members.
Wow.
So yeah, I know initially I was an IC. So right now I lead of 10 members. Luckily, the structure out here is the different channels.
Hmm.
So right from the QA to let's say the product team, ideally, yeah, the QA should not be reporting to our
Hmm.
team. But yeah, that's how the structure is currently. So that's
Nice.
where I'm at currently.
Oh, nice. Uh, what's your philosophy to the team? How do you sort of look at building your team? What do you look for in product managers? Now when start to venture out into ACO, I know you're joining that
Hmm.
next week.
Hmm.
Probably you might have an existing team there, or you might need to build a team. If anyone's watching this video, how do you uh, attract talent to join you?
So the if I had to look at the most important skill any product manager needs to have, and I won't get into the frameworks, tech, etc., and all of that, but I've seen a lot of good product managers that I worked with. For example, Jatin that I worked with,
Yeah,
etc. I think a clear important feature that, or rather, what do you call, factor that skill is important is basically your empathy and your
yeah,
ability to influence folks.
yeah.
And third is, I would say, storytelling. So, good amount of empathy because you need to understand your business guys, you need to understand your tech guys, you need to understand compliance operations. So, empathy is required, and your ability to influence decisions because I know even today I need to get work done mostly out of people that don't report to me. So, compliance, it could be operations, it could be business risk, etc., and all of that. So, your ability to influence and have leverage in the system clearly matters. That helps in form of execution, and obviously
Sure.
storytelling is a key skill because and that's where I sort of realized, okay, boss, I need to be creative because I
Hmm.
had a challenge of communicating and making
Hmm.
things interesting. So that's where I think, boss, storytelling is so critical because the engineer out there does not want to just be part of a task that is assigned to him.
Hmm.
He wants to be part of a larger objective that you're trying to fulfill. So how you
I've
narrate a story.
encouraged you to put out more of your content out.
Sure.
because
Okay.
you're an amazing storyteller. And
Okay.
I think some of your presentations, even till date, uh, I think it'll inspire a lot of PMs out there and
Okay.
give them a perspective also in terms of how to present a story or present a case, right?
Okay.
Uh, and I don't, that's a hard skill. I don't think a lot of people have it. I
Mhm.
don't have it for sure. So,
Mhm.
uh, but I just loved, looking at how you brought things together, like,
Okay.
especially on the B2C side. Again, especially B2C growth product managers need to
Mhm.
have that skill.
I agree because it's a story. Ultimately, you are selling a
Right.
story to a customer. So I
Yeah.
think you need to be a good storyteller. I agree. I agree.
Uh, Very curious to understand, how do you keep up your knowledge in terms of product management or, you know, understanding what's happening in the insurtech space or financial services
Mhm.
space?
So I
What books
think,
do you
yeah.
recommend?
Books. So if I had to list down books, let's say, like I said, skills, my empathy, and what do you call influence storytelling. Books, clearly, I would recommend one book called Never Split the Difference. It's by Chris Voss. He's an ex-FBI negotiator.
Sure.
And he talks about his journey about negotiating hostages. And he sort
Yeah.
of laughs when he goes to Harvard. So Never Split the Difference is a great book. There's another book called Super Thinking. It's great for frameworks, small
Sure.
frameworks, etc. and all that. Third is Tech Simplified by Deepak Singh. So
Mhm.
I've never been a tech guy, but reading that book is like, oh, anybody can understand tech.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as a product manager, please read that book.
It's a
Very
beautiful
useful
book.
book.
I agree.
Beautiful book. Beautiful book.
Yeah.
I mean, it had
Nice.
some production bugs. Funnily, I was paying Deepak Singh a lot of spelling mistakes, etc. But he's been very kind. But a great book
Yeah.
for anybody to read. Very simply put.
It's a good book. Yeah. I
Uh,
agree.
so those are the must read. Please
Mm-hmm.
read these three books. The good to read are there's a book called Inspired by Marty Kagan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called Lean Startup by Eric Rice, and there's another
Yeah.
book called Doesn't Hurt to Ask. It's on negotiation and how you influence people. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, those are the three good to read books.
I think you mentioned a lot of very good books and very important skills that people should pick up in each of these books.
I agree. I agree.
Nicely connected the dots. Very curious to get your thoughts in terms of, let's say if you had to change one decision from the past, what would that be?
I should have done my MBA much earlier. I think I paid a serious price to it. I think that did not give me access to positions, roles, etc.
Hmm.
I think I should have clearly done my MBA first. And
Sure.
I was not part of a filtered list. Put it
Got
that way
it.
when somebody searching. So I think that's something I really regret.
Okay, fair enough. What's your advice to any young aspirant out there who wants to start a career in product management?
So don't get into product management because it's a trend today. Get into it because you love creating new stuff and you love to see your users buy the product. You need to have that kind of passion. Ki boss, मैंने product launch किया अभी users use कर रहे हैं. How to
Hmm.
make it better, etc. And all that. So if you
Sure.
have that kind of drive, that kind of passion, and you that kind of thrill कि मेरा idea से वो product अभी customer का हाथ में है, please
Hmm.
get into it. Don't get into it just because of the trend. And I think, along with the books that you mentioned, a lot of young aspirants, what will help is if they read a lot of Twitter feeds of certain folks, like Shreyas Doshi is somebody I follow a lot.
He's
Uh,
amazing.
he's
Amazing guy.
just bang
He's
on every time, man. I mean,
he's a class apart. Yeah.
he's a class apart. I mean, he's bang on every time. I love
Yeah.
listening to his Twitter feeds. So anybody wants, I don't want to confuse with a lot of terms. Just go through Shreyas Doshi's Twitter feed. That's good enough.
Yeah.
And I think you learn a lot. Otherwise, I think if you want to learn a lot about product strategy, business, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Kunal Shah. I know he
Hmm.
gets a lot of flack, but I'm a huge fan of listening. I'm a huge fan of him. I love listening to his talks, etc., on business, etc., on product management, features, lending, etc., and all of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and listening to a lot of these business co-founders can give you a lot of insight onto how to build products. Like,
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that framework that he had, Delta 4, was a great framework to tell boss, a feature chalega nahi, to product chalega ka nahi. Very
Yeah.
simple feature. So listening to a lot of these folks, Shreyas Doshi, there's another guy called Diogo I'm not able to pronounce his last name, but he's also great. He's an interesting folk. Has a lot of
Sure.
case studies. Exponent is also a great place for you to learn a lot about product case studies problems.
Yeah.
Exponent,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
run by Stephen. So please go to a lot of YouTube videos. Don't go through a course. Trust me, courses, guys. Anybody looking for a course?
I
I might
agree.
be a teacher there. Trust me. Yes, I'm biased. I'm saying I might be a teacher one day there, earning money. But please don't join any product management course. They are useless. I mean, they teach you
Yeah.
nothing.
I
Go to
think
YouTube. Yeah,
people read, they can form their own
exactly.
ideologies and thought process. Because
Exactly.
there's no constant structure to the product management,
Bang
right?
on, bang on, bang on.
And the idea is to ensure that you form your own framework and see what works for you. and adapt to different organizations.
Perfect. And yeah, there's
And
no framework. So even when somebody was asking me what frameworks to understand, I think there's no solid framework. There might be some boring frameworks like circles, but practically we know it's about, just basics, which you can get through experiment YouTube videos
sure.
and all of that. Yeah.
So Vineet, let's say if you had an opportunity to work for any startup across the globe, right?
Mhm.
Which startup would you have been love to be part of, right? Or forget even love to be part of, maybe even like start that startup.
Startup. Um, okay, here comes my bias. I would love to be part of Swiggy
Okay.
because I love food.
Because you love food. That was actually my next section, but anyways, yeah, I think you
Yeah,
preempted the
so
next section. Mm.
I love food and I can understand what, I search for food. I use Swiggy almost literally daily, man. I mean, my wife shouts at me, but so
Yeah.
for sure Swiggy. Yeah.
Okay, great. I know you love food, so
Mm.
any favorite cuisines, any favorite restaurants, maybe in Bombay or sorry, not Bombay, Mumbai or Bangalore.
No, so I love discovering the street food. So honestly, when I'm in Bangalore, I go to this place called Rangana Military Hotel. So I love tasting the local flavors a lot. So Shivaji
Mm,
Military, Rangana Military Hotel, Veena stores. So
mm,
any place, I just love, the local flavors.
yeah,
I hate going to those fancy restaurants,
yeah,
etc. But I love the local places. So I
mm,
love the only place, man. Every time I come to Bangalore, I go to the only place. I mean, I've never not visited only place when I was in Bangalore. And a lot of biryani outlets, Meghna's Biryani, etc., and all of
yeah,
that. Great place.
yeah,
So Bangalore, there's one place called Koshi's in Bangalore, old school place. This is some
yeah,
place
yeah,
that I really love. So
mm,
Bangalore has a lot of great places for food, much better than Bombay.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, those are the kind of foods I love. Food of the street. I mean,
I know
uh,
once you messaged me recently saying "Hole in the Walls" was like,
oh,
I
it's
mean,
brilliant. It's
yeah,
brilliant, dude. I'm going to sell that advert for free. Hole in the wall. Anything I've picked up till date has been brilliant. I mean, nothing has been substandard. It's
I think
wow.
you become a marketer for "Hole in the Wall."
I
Maybe,
do. I want to be a vlogger, man. Food blogger, something someday. I'm sure I'm going to do that because I don't need to do it. I mean, that comes so instinctively. I'm going to do it one day for sure. And a lot
why
of
wait?
local places, huh?
You can start it today itself because I know you love food and you write beautifully and you
Mhm.
present
Cool.
information so lovely. And I think you can do it. You can start today
Cool.
itself.
Yeah, I think yeah, fair. I'll probably give that a shot. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's an alternative career
Yeah. Not even career, just do it on the
for
side,
fun. Yeah,
right?
for the fun. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because I know you love food a lot, and it comes out with your passion for it, right?
Okay.
And you should definitely do it.
Cool.
Uh, any other interest beyond food?
So music, clearly. I mean, I just food and music sort of just keeps me awake. So I actually wanted to be part of a rock band, but that sort of didn't turn out.
Mm,
But listening to all genres of music, right from heavy metal, death metal, hair metal, glam metal, new wave of British heavy metal, grunge, Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, to even
nice.
ghazals, Bollywood,
Oh,
right from
nice.
Rahman to Badshah. I
Mm,
mean, and I love listening to a lot of cover versions of a lot of songs where on YouTube you have a lot of these artists bringing their own version out. I
yeah.
think that's beautiful. I mean, the same song being done differently by other people, mixing classical instruments with the
Mm,
latest ones. I think it's a huge fan of. I just love music nowadays. For example, listening a lot to Pratik Kuhad. I
mm,
just love his music. I think maybe once you get older, heavy metal sort of seems a little boring,
yeah.
and a little slow music makes more sense to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of classic rock as well. So yeah,
Nice. I
music
think
is one.
that's the whole gamut of music. With you on music, I think
Hmm.
probably uh, heavy metal is something that I don't even listen to right through my ears. I just don't
But
relate.
okay, okay,
Great. Great. Vineet, first of all, thank you so much for your time again. You know,
no
it
problem.
was a pleasure talking to you. I won't hold you back. I know it's a weekend. I know you've recently become a father too. How's father treating you?
It's the best thing that has happened. Like generally, you come home, you have these escalations, production issues, things are down, boss is shouting at you, "Ye nahi hua, live hai," etc. Earlier, I
Mm,
would take work home, and I would sit and try and solve it. Now, when I come home, I don't care what's happening outside. That
mm,
guy, your bosses would have given you some 10 gullies, but
mm,
suddenly when you come home and that guy comes and hugs you,
mm.
your stress and all is gone away. I mean, it's wow. It's just wow. I thought my
Amazing.
life would change a little bit, but no, just the
Mm.
smile that he comes towards you is
Yeah.
unparalleled. Nothing can be
Again,
replaced.
through the years I've said this. One
Uh,
last reminder: don't take work home.
fair,
leave
fair,
leave
fair,
it behind.
fair,
Yeah.
fair, fair, fair. And it
Cool.
helps. My desk has become like this. Earlier, I would have beer bottles, but now it's like toys on my desk. So it's like,
Nice.
uh, I mean, cool.
Great. Thanks a lot, Vineet. Have a
No
nice
problem.
weekend.
That's just mine. Thanks, Anupam.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye.